in your ebook. And so it is, LexiScan is what I call it. And I don't think we're allowed to do that on NCLEX. What do you need to know for NCLEX? This word right here. And that populates one of your patients' MARS at clinical if your patient goes for a pharmacologic stress test, and they call it a LexiScan. Okay? And they inject regadenoson to make the same effect that walking on the treadmill does. And so, again, the patient is NPO for any stress test because if they have a massive event and we need to intubate them or do whatever, is there a risk of aspiration? Absolutely. Any patient that's going for a stress test should have a good IV. Because if we know that we're going to stress their heart and they could die, do we need an access? Yes. And so the other thing that you need to know is if they could die on the treadmill or when you push that stuff, according to which test they're having, they have to have consent. Does that make sense? And then, again, why would we remove nitrate? It's a vasodilator. And what we're trying to do is vasodilate. So is that going to get in the way and skew our test? Yes. So that's why we are to remove the nitropase before we send them for a stress test. So are there contraindications to a stress test? And we went through some reasons we would not let a patient go have a stress test, didn't we, already? But do we need to send a pregnant woman down for a stress test? No, she's already stressed. She's already got what? How many liters you got extra on your board? I think it's about 4. Too many. All right, if someone has asthma or pulmonary disease, they cannot have regadenoson injected. They have to have dobutamine instead. And so if they have active asthma or an active respiratory process like bad COPD and we're having to give them respiratory treatments and they schedule a pharmacologic stress test with LexiScan, then you need to let somebody know. Okay, because that's a contraindication. Some other contraindications to that would be like if a patient has bad aortic stenosis. Why do you think that is? What if their aortic valve, y'all remember about the aortic valve?
Or it's narrow?
Yes, if it's narrow, very good. If it's narrowed or stenosed significantly, can it push blood out to perfuse everything? Would it be dangerous to stress them? Yes, and that's one of the reasons, I don't know if you've realized this, but when a patient comes into the hospital, typically when we're doing an assessment on their heart, they do the EKG first, right? Real quick, 12-lead EKG. And then the next test that's ordered is an echo. Because that echocardiogram can tell us a lot about the heart. And we could see if there was any stenotic valves. And they always look at the echo before they do a pharm stress test. The EKG tech a lot of times will say, I'm pulling their echo result. And it's kind of like a safety guard. Okay? All right. Now, because we're injecting something that makes their heart rate jack up like you're going over a roller coaster really quick within a couple of seconds, it can cause some real damage if the patient doesn't react well to it. So we have to have a reversal agent right there. And the reversal agent, I don't know if y'all remember this, for LexiScan is amiloxolone and it's up there. Okay? So, what about a stress test do you not remember? You got it? Got it? Do you remember that they sometimes, and most of the time, if they have a pharmacologic stress test, they also go to nuclear medicine and have the scan? Do y'all remember that part? They scan them before the stress portion and after the stress portion, looking for any kind of spots that are not perfusing in the heart. Because the scan that they do in nuclear medicine, they inject an isotope and they scan them before the stress portion. And if they don't see anything on that scan, it still doesn't clear the patient because after the stress, sometimes they find some areas that are not perfusing after the stress portion of the test. Okay? All right. Move on, y'all. Let's bring a patient to heart cath because if they have a stress test and they found some spots that did not perfuse well on that nuclear scan, where are they going next?
Cath lab.
Going to the cath lab. So nowadays they can access radially, right? In the radial artery, they can actually do the heart cath here. The more commonplace, if it's a difficult cath or they're doing a complete heart cath, is femoral, okay? And the one that causes the most complications is femoral.
My mom had that.
Now, your mama had a
2 days ago, she had to have a
Oh,
It's like a huge bruise on her.
yeah. I don't want that. That's one on my list. I don't want that. All right, now, they also, a lot of times with children, do brachial as well, just so y'all know that. The other thing is according to where they stuck, radial or femoral, a lot of the care you're going to have to provide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're preparing a patient to go for a heart cath. What all do they need? What are you going to do? You're the nurse. You tell me.
Make sure the fan is on.
All right, one thing at a time. Consent. What'd you say? Consent. What else?
Make sure they shave both sides.
Yeah, you don't give them a haircut. Shave and haircut.
Allergies?
Nice. Clippers, please. No shaving. Okay. And equal amount on both sides. It ain't nice to cut one side and not the other. That does not look good. And the reason I do both sides is because if they have difficulty going in one side, they're going to have to go the other. And it's just going to make everybody's life so much better. Can you imagine having to break all the sterile fields and go flip the other side? Pain in the butt. What now? Oh. Yeah. Oh. She's up here. They'll appreciate you later. Do we need to check their pulses?
Yeah.
And mark their pulses before they go? Okay. Do they need a good IV?
Yes.
They need a peripheral IV. You do not have to have a central line to go for a heart cath. You need what? What kind of IV access? Peripheral IV. A good one. What else do they need? Amen. Amen. Whoever said that, you are right here. Why do we need to check their labs? What are some of the things that we need to check to make them safe? We worry about their bleeding, right?
Mm-hmm. Their
We
blood
worry about
kidneys.
PT, INR, PTT. Okay. And when I say PT, INR, PTT, you think, what meds are they on? Right? Right? Because if they're taking warfarin, Xarelto, what are some of the other ones? Linda, don't ask me all those names if you gotta know. Okay, any kind of anticoagulant, major antiplatelet meds, do you think we need to know that? Yes. Okay, what else on the lab could be a problem to send someone for a heart cath? Do you think it's kind of stressing on the heart?
Yeah.
Are you going to inject dye during this test?
Yes.
Do we need to worry about allergies?
Yeah.
You always have kidneys over there.
Yeah.
Kidneys.
Vod and creatinine
You and creatinine. Mainly creatinine for me.
function.
We're worried about that because if your kidneys aren't functioning well, what's going to happen when you put that dye? It's not
going to flush out.
Because remember that dye acts as an osmotic diuretic, and it can really hurt their kidneys. But they have to have this test. So what are we going to do to them? We're going to increase fluids. Now they may not tolerate that increased fluids. We're going to give them some extra fluids carefully. And what's another medication that they may get to protect their kidneys from the dye? Acetylcysteine is what you know it as. I know it as Mucomist. Do y'all remember that? Y'all remember all these things from last semester, or they went like this? Okay. All right. So we got to check, make sure the kidneys are functioning. And one other thing, don't ever forget this. If you're sending a patient for any kind of procedure related to the heart, you better check their electrolytes. Because if they're off, could that set them off? Okay, so if their potassium's off, out of whack, magnesium's out of whack, you better report that before you send them. Okay? All right, so do you see this thing up here, this liquid recorder? Remember what I told you about? Oh, bless you. That was a good one. All right, right there. That's just a little device that they implant in the cath lab on patients nowadays to track their, if they're having any kind of dysrhythmia or whatever, and it records that. And they leave it, sometimes they leave it on the outside of the skin, I've been told now. A lot of times they'll make a little pocket and insert it kind of like a pacemaker, and the patient keeps it for a while. Just wanted you to know, so if you get pulled to the cath lab and somebody says somebody's having a liquid recorder, you know what it is. This is not on the skin. It looks like a little flash drive up under the skin, okay? All right. What are we talking about? Heart cath. traditional, femoral stick. Tell me something. What's the danger? Bleeding. You walk in a room and they're bringing back your patient from cath lab. What's your priority? Where are you looking first? You better look up at that groin. You ain't even better yet. Ain't that fun? First place you get to go. Hey, but you won't forget that. That's your priority, is to check that site. And, you know, it's according to the build of the patient. I've had some huge men that have those big old tool belts. You know what I'm talking about? Natural tool belts. Natural big old aprons. You gotta pull your tool belt over and you gotta put your hand and feel and make sure it's not hard. Make sure it's not an egg-like. Make sure you ask that cath lab nurse, is this how it's always felt? Because you gotta know if something changes on anybody. You know, you like it, you like this. When your patient comes back from cath lab from some skinny little old woman that you couldn't miss that, you know what I'm saying? And sorry. Anyway, so if it is bleeding, you pull it back and lo and behold, you see this big old egg coming up. What's your priority action? High pressure at the site nowadays. That's how they're teaching it. At the site. Okay? And hold it, no peeping. 10 minutes at least, and it's hard to do without peeping. Okay. What else are your assessment priorities, and how would you know if someone's bleeding and you can't see it?
Vital signs.
They're
Vital signs.
very low.
Vital signs. Blood pressure is what? Low. And if they're not taking meds to keep the heart rate down, we pray, you will see the heart rate doing what? Coming up. But not on everybody. If they're like me and they take beta blockers naturally, you see what I'm saying? You may not notice their heart rate going up. It'll be more of a, that is higher than it has been. So you got to know your trends on your patients, okay? But you hadn't thought of that. We have patients all the time at clinical, they'll come back and they'll go, heart rate. I said, is she on beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, and da-da-da-da? They're like, I said, do you think we would see a big increase in that anyway? They're like, no. I said, that's scary right there. She's close to 100. We got a problem. So, because they were wanting it to be like 120, 130, 140, not necessarily. What is the patient's trend? Okay, but you will notice their heart rate is starting to come up if they're bleeding. Because that's a what? Compensatory mechanism. Now tell me something while I get to this. All right. Heart cath, have we hit all the points?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't educate that patient, and some of them were not educated, you guys, before they went down for their cath because it was an emergency, and you let them come back and you go out of the room and you didn't tell them not to get up because you thought somebody else did, and the cath lab nurse will tell them, but sometimes they're still grogged out on what? Their meds. You may find them in the bathroom when you come back. So I won't leave that room until I say, you are not to get up because it can cause you to bleed. I've got an emergency, but I don't need nothing. So you stay right there, okay? I'll be right back. Okay. So y'all see the importance of making sure you educate them not to get out of bed, because if they do, what might happen? Bleed, and it does happen when they get up. All right. Y'all remember all that? So you remember about the dye. How important it is you increase fluids and try to flush that out of their system, right? Okay. All right. Y'all see this up here? I don't know if you can see it. This is a little hemoband. Every hospital is a little bit different in what they use. If they have a radial stick, they typically will put a little band on and release it over, and it's like 30-minute increments. And if you have a radial stick, they can get up because they stuck where? Here and not here. I just want to make sure y'all know that. All right. Y'all doing okay? You think if you got questions on a stress test, are you ready? If we do a good review. What about heart cath? Yeah. All right. I told you, now you tell me. Main safety points. Give me about a heart cath. What are some main points?
Don't get out after the procedures.
Good.
Increase fluids.
Plenty of fluids.
Now, there's some we've not covered, but you just hit it. And that's what I was wondering what happens. I want to make sure everybody's got the same information.
What you say?
What about, they did a heart cath, right? So they take a guide wire and go up through there, and you're going up through big old vessels that might have plaque. Could they accidentally knock off some plaque during that heart cath? And could that cause, always think about the complications of procedures. So can they lose the circulation in their extremities? So how would you know that that is starting to happen? Check their pulses, but I will tell you, this has happened to me a couple of times in my career, and here's what they'll say. They'll say, my foot feels weird, and then I'll say, weird how? And then they'll say numb, or they'll say pins and needle weird. I'll say, have you ever had that before? Is that something, like you have with a back problem? Because you don't want to go call and they say, well, yeah, she's always been that way because she's had a fusion to her back, or, So just make sure you do a good assessment and say, have you ever had this before? But y'all, that can mean that they're losing the circulation. That is a complication of heart cath. Anytime that you're feeding wires up for a cath or an angioplasty or anything that they're doing in the cath lab, that can happen. And what else can happen on the same level, but different location? Stroke. And I'm gonna tell you, the most god-awful thing that has ever happened to me, it ain't worse, it's one of the worst, is there was a lady about my age that went and had a heart cath and come back, and I thought she was playing. Because I stuck around my patients, and I talked to them a lot, and she started slurring her words, and I was like, and then she started saying wrong words, and I was like, hey, quit playing with me. She ain't funny anymore. It was so real. I was like, not today. And so, anyway, she went right to the unit. She had a stroke following her heart cath. Now, some patients will have visual disturbances, and they're having a stroke. So, you gotta be looking for that kind of stuff. All the signs and symptoms of stroke you need to know, and you need to report on NCLEX. They give you that patient who's had a heart cath, and which of the following would you contact healthcare provider regarding immediately or something. That would be, speech alterations, or slurred speech, visual problems. What are the other signs of a stroke? Weakness in an arm or a leg. I feel like I'm the TV commercial, but y'all know what I'm Okay. So what else? We talked about heart cath and those complications. What else? Tell me about a stress test. What can happen during a stress test? Huh?
They can have a
ST elevation, infarct, ST segment depression, pain, they can fall out. All right, y'all feel pretty good? Okay, let's move. Move on. Pacemakers. What do you remember about pacemakers?
they're supposed to pace the heart.
Amen. Okay, high five. Get this. Pacemakers are for primarily, y'all heard me say the word primarily, for slow heart rates. They can do, we can use pacemakers for tachyarrhythmias too. We do, but I don't want you getting your little self confused on your test. What kind of rhythms do we pace? Bradycardia, symptomatic bradycardia, because I have bradycardia, but I'm not yet. Okay. So, again, is pacing a form of electricity? Yes. And if you don't think so, we need to do an experiment. You can go to the hospital and hook them little pads to you that's on the shot box. Hook you and turn on the pacer. It hurts. And that form of pacing is called transcutaneous. Yay! Okay. What's cutaneous mean?
On top.
Skin. So if I am pacing you through the shock pads, which you can do, that's emergency pacing, then that's called transcutaneous. Okay, so if you see it on your NCLEX, that's what we're talking about, transcutaneous pacing. The thing about transcutaneous pacing is you don't do it for too long, and it hurts. And when you're getting a blood pressure, you want to make sure if you got the pad up here and here, where are you going to get the blood pressure? In the leg. Because if you're doing this, if it's doing this, the pad's kind of doing this with electricity and causing the muscle to kind of cringe a little bit, is that going to screw up your blood pressure? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, that was just extra from Ms. Cooper, but it happens all the time. All right, so we talked about transcutaneous. What's some other forms of pacemakers that you're very familiar with? transvenous, because the permanent ones that old people, I'll have one tomorrow, so both of them. The older people get are transvenous, and they have their own little, generator, and they make a little pocket under the skin, and typically they put them on the left because most people are right-handed. And the old-fashioned forms that can pace more than one chamber are kind of big, bulky, and, there are newer ones out there. I don't want y'all to think I'm not current. Gulfport's putting in Medtronic's Micra, and this is just extra. And it's the coolest thing ever. It's about the size of a vitamin or the size of a nickel. And it has no leads. But it can only pace one chamber. So it's only good for a certain patient population, okay? What are you going to be tested on for NCLEX is those old big bulky ones like you see up here. And they have leads, kind of like fishing line, all right? And on the end of the fishing line, I want you to think like this, is a screw, like the end of a screw. And that end has to seat in the heart itself, okay? It has to seat in there and grow. Tissue has to grow over it so that it gets in there and it stays put. So a huge risk or complication of a pacemaker insertion, transvenous, permanent pacemaker, is when a patient does this, if they abduct, then what are they going to pull out right after and that's why they're going to put them in a what? A sling, and they're going to tell them don't lift or pull anything with this arm. If they put it over here. Not everybody's right-handed. Some people are left-handed, so they'll put it some over on the right. Does that make sense? Okay, so tell me, I told you one complication was lead displacement, right? And it's common. What's another complication?
Infection.
Infection is a huge one. So what are the active, y'all heard me say the word active, signs and symptoms of infection?
Elevated fever.
Elevated temp, redness at the site, heat at the site, drainage. A little pinkness at the site is normal healing, okay? We don't care if there's a little pinkness at the site, but you can have a little pinkness at the site because that's natural, because the perfusion to that site has increased because it is so. It's a little inflamed, so there's going to be what? A little bit of puffiness. That's normal. But if it is swelling and it's leaking nasty, stinky stuff, is there a problem?
Yeah.
What's another thing you can look at on lab to see if they might have an infection? And what's normal white blood cells? Woo! Y'all are cooking. Okay, I'm happy about that. So now, teaching is a huge part of this permanent pacemaker placement. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what if you have one put in you, would you want to know?
You can.
How do you know if it's working or not?
If your heart rate is low.
They need to know what it's programmed at, right? They need to take their pulse, okay? How do they know when it's not working? What happens? Dizzy. They're not perfusing their brain. They may have palpitations. They may also do what? Oh, Jesus, we got to talk about them hiccups. That's something else. Let's talk about that, but I'm glad you said that. That's a good one. Okay, but let's talk about if the pacemaker's not working, their heart rate drops way back down low, right? Short of breath. Short of breath, dizzy, palpitations, weakness. You got me? All those things. This is why we had to put it in the first place. What else are you going to teach them?
Don't take a bath, take showers, or bed bath.
Hold on a minute.
I mean, what I say?
Girl, when my booty gets in my tub, I don't like my booty in my tub.
Mm.
I don't like booty juice. Just saying. I want you to think about this. Think about it. If your booty's in your tub, where's your pacemaker?
Oh, yeah.
Unless you got a tub that goes all the way up there, you okay in the tub. Because them old people don't take no showers. They are
barely take that.
So they just need a dedicated washcloth for this. Don't be putting your booty juice here. Y'all, I worked in a women's clinic. I can say booty juice because they get it. When I talk like that, they get it. Okay, but they don't get it until you tell them, and they go, oh, yeah. All right, so you with me? So keep going on this. What else do you teach them? What do you know about like transformers? All right, what about, I was gonna say, what are the things you get on the beach and find people's stuff and metal detectors? Do they need to be close to that? Do they need to be,
Don't they need to talk on their cell phone with the other hand?
Yes, they need to talk on the cell phone on the other side. There's so much. So y'all look at that part, and there's stuff on these slides too. What's the biggest one safety concern in the hospital?
No MRI, right?
No MRI. They need to stay away from electromagnetic fields. Y'all remember that? Okay. Yes, we remember all of this. Do y'all remember the code pacemaker? It's up here. If you don't remember, y'all have to pull it. Right up here. And there are actually 5 codes: chamber pain, chamber sense, response to what sense, programmability, and anti-packaging response. And I ain't never had to say that to anybody in the real world. I looked it up. Okay.
So that's not gonna be an
Okay. So, again, do you need to kind of revisit these things? Yes. Okay. Here's your complications. Don't that look nasty? But these are the biggest things that happen because when they abduct, what do? They pull out what? Their lead. Now, here's the big one for level 4. Big one. Big complication that can kill somebody and we forget is any time that you are insulting the lining of the heart, you have the risk for cardiac tamponade. So again, you do the nurse care for this patient after they've had a transvenous pacemaker. What do you need to look for? Signs of what are they?
Vital signs, being low pulse.
And muffled heart sounds. And there's a few other things, so you need to visit that part in your book. Yep. And because one of the big things that I've noticed in a patient that had it was JVD, clear breath sounds. And they didn't have it before. And how do you assess JVD? What position?
30 degrees.
30 to 45. Okay? All right, don't be no nitpicker in here. All right. Do you assess it with them flat?
No.
No. All right. Again, look up here. Complications of pacemakers. You see, we're fixing to talk about some new things. We talked a little bit last semester about loss of capture, didn't we? Y'all remember what that is? It's when the pacemaker fires and you see a what?
Spike. A purple spike.
But no QRS. Okay, did the heart muscle respond to that spike or that electricity? Did it respond? No. So what do we need to do? Increase the what? Oh, you said it right too. And I don't ever say this right. You got to increase the threshold, just like you carry your bride over the threshold or something like that. I think there's 2 different kinds of threshold, the same word. So there's a word for that, but I don't remember what it is. It don't matter. You're going to increase the, y'all say it.
Threshold.
When you have loss of capture, you do what?
Increase the threshold.
What does that mean?
Crank it up.
Crank it up.
I'm cranking up the juice, baby. Hang on. That's what you're doing. And we're going to do it in increments and slowly because it's just me. Because we don't want to be giving them a bunch of electricity if they didn't need that much. You with me? Y'all got it? All right. And after we get capture, because we've increased the juice, we give them 2 milliamps to do what? To grow on. Right? You with me? Because we want them to what? Keep doing what? Capturing. We want it to keep working. All right, so look up here. I'm all about talk about it, see it, and talk about it again because you're going to remember it. You agree? Okay. So what is this? A spike. What is this? A spike right here, and you got capture. There's a spike with what?
No QRS.
So that's all
Loss of capture.
Okay, there's an example. Oh God, undersensing. When you work in the ICU, it's kind of funny when you have a temporary transvenous patient, and there's certain nurses in there who are good with it, and certain ones that are trying to look for you because they're not. This is when they have a pacemaker wire inserted through their fancy central line, okay? And then At the end of the wire, there is a little device that looks like a gaming, one of them little things y'all game with and hold in your hand. That's what it looks like. Okay, and the nurse is responsible for tweaking the rate, tweaking all kinds of stuff on this little gaming device thing, is what I call it. And it's the generator. So instead of the generator being under their skin, it's outside it. And we have the ability to tweak all of the settings. You with me? Okay, well sometimes those will malfunction. And when we look at the patient, we look at their strip, what is happening? So it's firing and it's what? Not needed. So it's firing when it's not needed. And what that's called is undersensing. Y'all, as a new nurse, I can't imagine that you would be responsible for this. But for some reason, they put it in your book. So I'm explaining it. So if you hear these words of undersensing, it means that the pacemaker is firing when it's not needed. So there's a problem with the settings on your device. You with me? Okay, so we talked about undersensing. Now let's talk about oversensing. So when it's oversensing, look up here. It's failing to work. It's supposed to have fired right here and it didn't. So is the pacemaker working? No. All right, so remember earlier we were talking about, now this was stop, but we were talking about transcutaneous pacing, and I told you they use the same pad to pace this as they do the shot this. Well, there they are, and that's the same pad, and they hook to the same shot box, and right here, I don't know if you can see it, there's that green circle, there's a green little rectangle right here that says pacer, and it says rate, and then it says, what does it say, current, and then it says pause. Y'all see that? That is your pacer, and to use that function, you have to turn it on, okay? The little light will come on where it says pacer, you just push the button. And I talked to you about that it hurts. This is for emergency short-term use only. And you can take the blood pressure on the other side, but I recommend you doing it where? On the leg, because then there's no interference. This is the little gaming device. I told you that they could actually put a pacer wire through your fancy central line that we're going to talk about on Friday. And so that's a little generator device that is hooked to this pacemaker wire. So do we have such a thing as transvenous temporary pacemakers? Yes, and we're going to talk about them Friday. The only other pacemaker I want you to know and put in your vocabulary, we're going to talk about with a CABG patient. What's CABG? Coronary artery bypass grafting. Y'all know that's on your objective. It is called an epicardial pacing wire, and it's the coolest thing you'll ever see, and I pray you get to see one in the ICU this semester. If you look real close at this picture, there's something that looks like clear fishing line coming right out of this man's chest, and it's taped to him. And I promise y'all, I was taking care of a patient, and the family was trying to get it off. And I was like, don't touch that. And they put those in as a safeguard because a common problem after a CABG is bradycardia or arrhythmias. And so we have that as a safeguard. And y'all, those pacer wires are actually placed in open heart surgery and actually pull through the skin. And the way we remove them, it's the coolest thing ever. Yank them out. And so maybe you'll get to see that or do that, but don't feel like I did it. And let the nurse do it with your hands. It's just a feeling, you know. But anyway, don't do it by yourself. You don't do it until you're told to do it. But anyway, it's really cool. So I need you to know those exist, and that's all I need you to know for now, okay? And don't touch them or mess with them, but make sure they're secure. Are you with me? It's been a great day. The one thing I wish that you would do tonight is pull up your syllabus and your cardiac objectives. Add to it stool softeners. Add to it warfarin related to valves. You know, people take warfarin as what? Anticoagulation when they have a mechanical heart valve, right? I don't want y'all to miss any real simple, stupid questions. So please remember about warfarin and stool softeners. And we'll talk more about it, okay? Okay, bye y'all. It's fun. I hate y'all have to leave.
I have to do the work at 4:30
Alright.
and I get out. I leave work at 9.
Hey, everybody here sign in. Y'all get in trouble. Hey, not in our class, get in. Hey, I'm hoping that we can all